الخير يا جماعة الخير and welcome to the special episode of 100X podcast. My name is Bader Al Essa and I'm invited today by Destination Abu Dhabi to host this amazing podcast. My guest today is Ryaan Sharif, General Manager of FLAT6LABS. It's an accelerator and VC, venture capital, and we've dissected how they think and how do they choose startup that they accelerate and they invest in. If you are a startup or wanting to go into that field or interested in running businesses, growing your business, this episode is for you. I'm sure you'll enjoy it, you will learn a lot, and you would want to comment about it, like it, and share it to your friends and family. I hope that you enjoy this episode with us, and let's get into the episode. So before we start to dive deep into the amazing knowledge of my guest, I would love to play a game with you, Mr. Ryaan.
Sure.
We have 3 cards that are surprise.
Yep.
You will have to pick one, do not read it.
Okay.
We'll keep it at the end of the episode.
Okay.
Brilliant. Feel free to choose one. I will just keep it there. الحين طبعا I'm really happy and excited to be here in Abu Dhabi and interviewing you. I've heard a lot about FLAT6LABS and I'm ready with my curiosity to dive deep, understand who's Ryaan.
Sure.
And what does FLAT6LABS do? And then the effect of Abu Dhabi and being in this amazing city on the business. So let's start with Ryaan. Can you take us, Ryaan Sharif, General Manager of FLAT6LABS Abu Dhabi?
So my name is Ryaan Sharif, General Manager of FLAT6LABS Abu Dhabi. I was brought up in Bahrain. My father is Bahraini, my mother is Welsh. I went to school at a British school in Bahrain and then went to university in the UK. I then decided to get a job back in Bahrain, was working with a company called Ernst & Young in transaction advisory. I then moved...
One of the big four.
One of the big four, exactly. Working on valuations, DDs, and so forth. Then we ended up moving to work for His Royal Highness the Crown Prince of Bahrain for a company called the Economic Development Board. Spent 10 years there working in manufacturing. Very different from what I'm doing today. And then I joined FLAT6. So I joined FLAT6. I worked for FLAT6 in Bahrain for 2 years. Then moved to a CVC called Beyond, which is part of Batelco, the wider group, investing in much later stage companies, and then moved here to Abu Dhabi about 2.5 years ago.
Wallah, quite a journey, but you look young. MashaAllah. And then I want, before I jump to FLAT6LABS, I want our audience to get to know the value of working with such companies before you pursue your dream. What did Ernst & Young give you, and what did working with His Royal Highness provide for Ryaan himself?
Yeah, I think, look, working for a big American firm like Ernst & Young, I think taught you the discipline of working hard, working within structures. Everything is very clear in terms of reporting lines and so forth. I understood the fundamentals of finance as well. So I really got a deeper understanding of how to do valuations, how to do due diligence, and how to dig deep into companies. Then when I moved to His Royal Highness's EDB.
You worked with him directly? You know him as a person?
I don't know him as a person. I've met him once before. But
I've heard good things.
Yeah, I mean, he's a brilliant person. He's a brilliant man, extremely well educated, very well spoken. So, I mean, working under that, there was a lot of sort of media training. So we used to go on high-level delegations, go around the world, travel to many different parts of the world, spent much of my time in China, India, the US, and it gave me a much worldly view of how to do business and how business acumen changes from nationality to nationality, which I really enjoyed. As we joked about, I think going into manufacturing was not the sexiest thing to talk about over dinner. So I decided to move away from that and joined FLAT6. And I mean, working with FLAT6 has been a real pleasure because we're so hands-on with the entrepreneurs. We really get to know them inside out. And it's taught me a lot from the actual entrepreneurs teaching us as well.
Before jumping into FLAT6LABS, again, I really want to focus on this point. If someone is really comfortable in a job, 10 years, you're technically in your comfort zone. I'm sure the pay was excellent, otherwise you won't stay 10 years.
Yeah.
How do you decide to switch career? It's not an easy decision.
As
I know from economical development
board
to your to the next step.
Yeah. Look, I think it was a time and place, right? I'd been at the organization for nearly 9 years. I knew it wasn't an industry that I particularly wanted to do for the rest of my life. And
Something pushed you, يعني, your guts,
yeah,
your heart.
I think it was just the environment, right? So we're living in an environment where tech is taking over the world, right? So we have these large companies like Meta and Google and so forth, Twitter, dominating the world in terms of market cap and becoming these huge companies. And I think it just fascinated me that, you know, I would like to move into that direction. Perhaps maybe not work for such a large organization, but work with something which is a bit more young and vibrant. And I saw, particularly when I was in Bahrain, working in Bahrain, that it was really up and coming. And now it's spread across the GCC. Everybody is now looking into having a startup or building a business. And I think it's a fantastic industry to be in.
Okay, excellent. Then let's jump directly to Giza, Egypt.
Yep.
Beautiful building, 6th floor.
Yeah.
FLAT6LAB.
Yeah.
I think that's the idea behind the name, huh?
Exactly. FLAT6LABS was originated in flat number 6 in Giza. It was the office of a company called Sawari Ventures, which was founded by two founders, Ahmed Alfi and Hani Sambati. Both of them entrepreneurs at heart, both extremely savvy businessmen, people that wanted to develop businesses and spin them out to be successful in their own right. And they established Sawari first. And then they noticed in 2011 that the deal flow was actually quite slow. As a Series A investor, there wasn't enough young entrepreneurs building businesses in Egypt. And that access to capital was hard.
And that was back 2011.
2011.
Okay.
It was actually, weirdly enough, just before the uprising that happened in 2011 in Egypt. So even that was a challenging point. So yeah, these two gentlemen got together. They decided to form this company. They were the first people to back it as well and fund it. And it's gone
what was the initial fund?
I think the initial fund was something like $20,000. So
That's it.
yeah, that's it. So extremely small tickets, looking to back these young entrepreneurs and build business.
This is extremely inspiring for our audience. And you can start with, even create a fund with a small amount.
Yeah, for sure. I think the dynamics have changed today, right? So I think it's become much more competitive. There's a lot more accelerators. But I mean, when I look back, I wish when I was that age that I had a platform that I could go to, actually ask for funding and actually build a business. So, I mean, even the dynamics today have changed a lot.
Amazing. So can you explain a little bit about the difference between an accelerator, incubator, and a VC?
Sure. So I would say an incubator is a space where startups can come and meet and socialize, and there's some softer courses that are taught throughout the environment that lives there. An accelerator usually has skin in the game, so they usually are putting a little bit of financial backing, but then also tailoring coaching, mentoring, and training for that particular startup. And then a VC is somebody which is mostly purely investing in the company and then trying to help them raise funds. The way that we see FLAT6 is not purely an accelerator. We call ourselves VC first, accelerator second. So we actually invest, have skin in the game, and then we develop them. We do
because acceleration does not mean I invest in your business.
No.
Acceleration is a service. I'll help you speed up the process of everything that you're doing based on my experience and my consultants and my
And to be honest, even that's changed over time, right? So people have access to videos online and a lot of the content is already online. So when FLAT6 first originated, I would say that it was more focused on the 101 of building a startup. Today, a lot of that content's online. If you go and watch Y Combinator videos, you can gain a lot of that content directly.
Podcasts like this exist, for a reason.
Exactly. So for us, what we did is we totally retailored the program here in Abu Dhabi. So here in Abu Dhabi, it's purely centric to the founders. So we do a detailed diagnostic when they come in. So it's a personality and persona testing, purposely fit for entrepreneurs. And then what we try and do is...
From where did you get your tests? Did you create them?
So it's actually a company called Meta. It's not the big company Meta. It's actually another company. It's actually derived by two British professors.
META also?
Yeah, META. I can share the link with you afterwards. And basically they go deep into this, basically the personality and persona of the founder.
Nice.
And you can actually figure out with the founder where he's strong and where he's weak as a founder. And then as a program, what we've developed is where they're weak is to try and upskill those weaknesses. If we're unable to do that, we also look at it from an HR perspective. Right. So we have 2 founders, extremely geeky, great at building product, but terrible at like B2B sales. So can we teach that? Hopefully. So throughout the program, we match them with the appropriate coach, mentor, and trainer to actually help them on B2B. If not, we can bring somebody in and join the team and be that member of the team to help grow the business.
That's genius.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've learned the hard way. I remember my first startup where me and my partner were identical.
Yeah.
Basically, we got excited to do the same tasks, and some tasks were left undone.
Yeah.
For some imaginary partner to actually take that role, and no one did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a big issue is when we are actually analyzing the companies. We just had our boot camp, right? We had boot camp number 6 recently. And we love to actually view the dynamics of the team to see how they work with one another. Do they complement each other? Are they too alike? And that's
Because we tend to hire people who are like us. Yeah.
Generally, I think if you're a good leader, you don't do that.
You have to be really aware, not to do that, because your tendency will like people that actually have similar thoughts, similar ideologies, speak similar language.
True. And I feel like also a tendency you can have is to get attached to somebody who thinks and works like you, which is another sort of downfall.
Amazing. Well, a beautiful intro. Thank you, Ryaan, for this generous information. Let's go deeper شوية in FLAT6LABS. How do you guys sort out opportunities? If I'm watching this episode and I have a startup and I want to apply, maybe we could play a game, you and I, where I could apply as a startup and then you can ask me all the questions and we can do a role play example for everyone that's watching.
Sure. I think what we can do is I can discuss the elements of what we look for in a technology company, but the way that the process works, it's quite lengthy, right? It's a very hard process we get 960 applicants usually every cycle, and we only invest in 10 companies. So to go from the 960 to the 10 is an extremely difficult process.
Course.
So the
you
first
need obstacle race,
I mean, you need to, first of all, we tease out a lot of questions, and the questions are almost part of the due diligence process. So we need to know more about the founders. What's your backgrounds? What have you done before? Do you have any industry knowledge in the actual business that you're presenting? Is there a market for it? And have you done that research on the market? Are you good at financially modeling? Like, are you realistic in your financial predictions? And these are all information that we take in first. And what we do is from the 960 applications, we pick the top 10%. So that's about 96 companies that we look at. The 96 companies, the team actually interview them and we go deep. Then we start
How deep?
Well, I mean, it's an hour call. So there's only so deep that you can go within an hour. But we try to go as deep as possible to try and poke and see whether this person really knows what they're talking about or whether they're just good at presenting an idea across, in that respect. After that, we then actually invite... after that, we go to 45 companies. The 45 companies are deliberated between myself, the CEO.
From 96 to 45. So we take 50% of the 10%.
Get cunt.
Okay.
It's butchery. It's like really aggressive in terms of bringing down the numbers. So we get down to the 45. The 45 are deliberated between myself, the CEO, the CIO, and the rest of the team members within FLAT6. And each person in the company take responsibility for their company. And they try and pitch it to us and basically say, this is why I think they're good. This is what I've seen in the founders. I really believe in the market.
So the 45 is divided by 3 and each one of you have...
The 45 is divided by about 6 team members to pitch.
Okay.
And those team members pitch it to all of us. Okay. And then we sit, deliberate. We bring it down to 20. The 20, we fly into Abu Dhabi. And we spend a week with them.
You fly to Abu Dhabi, so you're not based here?
So they fly to Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
We're based here.
Okay.
But the startups are based from all over the world. We have 96.
So if you're chosen from top 20, you're good.
I always tell them it's an achievement to be here if you're in the top 20.
Nice.
Because, you know, you are part of the 10% that, you know,
Got
was
it,
there.
yeah. Survived.
That survived, exactly.
Okay.
So we spend the week with them. Yeah, a week in our office, and we do a lot of different activities basically within the office to try and get to know the founders a lot better. A lot of the team members are observing a lot of the time to see how they're interacting and what they're like.
Genius.
And then we also have another room where we also discuss valuation terms, try to understand what they're thinking, the numbers, what they're thinking about it. And we go quite deep.
And basically, you want to push the number down as much as possible.
Well, we don't. We want it to be a reasonable number that it's not going to harm them later on. I think there's a common thing. There's a common perception in a lot of startups' heads is that I need to raise at the highest valuation possible because I need to try and keep as much equity today as I can. And I think that's the wrong perception.
Why?
Because I feel like you need to raise money gradually. If you raise, for example, at a very high valuation cap,
and then the next one becomes lower.
Yeah, then you're good as dead, essentially, because the momentum goes. People will say, "Oh, you raised at 10 and now you're raising at 6. What happened?" So we need.
So it's better for you to raise at 4 and then 6 and then 8 and then 10.
Yeah, if like the jumps need to be justified. If you go from 5 to 15 and you have the metrics to prove that. Then I'm fine with it.
New market, new product.
New revenue.
New service.
Yeah, exactly. Then it's fine. But if you don't, it's better to raise incrementally.
Okay. And then what happens next after the week?
So after the week, again, we negotiate terms. It's quite hard to negotiate terms with 10 companies at once.
Yeah.
But we do. We negotiate terms with
who does it? Who's the wizard?
It's myself and 2 of my investment team members, mostly, that go through it.
Poker face and يعني.
Well, it's not as to be honest, a lot of the work is done while they're in the boot camp. Yeah, a lot of that process happens in the 3 weeks. Then I present it to our LPs, and then we invest in the companies. LPs are our limited partner.
Okay.
So the limited partner here in Abu Dhabi is a company called Disrupt AD, who is owned by ADQ. ADQ are the 3rd largest sovereign wealth fund in the UAE, 16th largest in the world. They control about $160 billion of assets under management.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And you go back to them for their approval?
Yeah. So they have full view of the companies that we've selected, and they basically approve the investments. Yeah.
Okay. And this will take me directly to Abu Dhabi.
Sure.
I think it's the best time to jump to Abu Dhabi's lab. So basically, the city is supporting you guys financially to invest in companies that are based in Abu Dhabi. Can you tell me a little bit about Abu Dhabi role in all of this amazingness that you're doing?
So I think Abu Dhabi is trying to become a global hub for attracting entrepreneurs. And I think
they're doing excellent.
And they've done an amazing job in attracting some later stage companies in deep tech and AI, fantastic investors. I think what we've noticed over the years is that the earlier stage startups have struggled a little bit to find funding because there's usually the jump up is straight to a VC. And a VC a lot of the time will say, well, we need to see more traction. We need you to develop the business a bit more. So there's been a big gap in the market, in my perspective, for accelerators to come in and help those startups get a leg up to come to a VC level. And I think Abu Dhabi are playing a pivotal role in that.
So the city is trying to support the ecosystem by bringing more acceleration programs to enable those startups to go to the level of VC so they can prosper and grow. And why would a city like Abu Dhabi with a lot of, mashallah, success and really focus on entrepreneurship? What is it for them?
Look, the way I think about it is if you want to attract the top tech companies to come and live and breathe and end up domiciling in a country, there needs to be more to it than just money. And I think one of the things that they've got a great appreciation of is human talent. So they want to make this country into a place where you want to live from a lifestyle perspective. But on the other side of the things is to actually come here, try and become an entrepreneur.
Artists, attract successful people, attract entrepreneurs.
Yeah, try and attract the best talent possible in the world to come and base themselves here and actually build a business. And I think part of accelerators and part of these programs is that entrepreneurs will obviously fail. Failure rate is extremely high in any entrepreneurship.
True. 90%?
Yeah, exactly. 90% of ventures fail. But the idea is that they've got these learnings and they've gone through the motions, and they don't necessarily ever have to become a startup again. But that person who's gone and failed and had a lot of the learning could actually be the next round of talent for the big tech companies that are actually come here and set up. And I think the government appreciate that. They understand that in order to build an ecosystem, you need to start at the bottom and build upwards.
I also look at it in the heat and pressure that a charcoal needs to become, to transfer into a diamond. And I believe same heat and pressure will be applied in every single entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is a place where, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a place where you have a lot of pressure and you need to develop yourself in so many different ways. And just by convincing people and pushing them to take that courage and to have the leap of faith and to jump that jump, even if they don't actually succeed in this business. But if you have that mindset alive and kicking, and they can try until they get it, basically you created a beautiful momentum. And you've created amazing people. They've created amazing impact on the community. And it's basically something that Abu Dhabi really understands, huh?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, look, Abu Dhabi as a location for doing business is fantastic in terms of all the facilities that they have. But I really think that they are really trying hard to build the entire ecosystem here from, in terms of mentorship, coaching, training, funding, working within government, even the government here. I mean, the amount that I interact with the government as an accelerator is exceptional. I mean, they're constantly in contact with me, asking me to attend different conferences, to be involved in shaping the reforms and legislations of the country. So you need to have that type of approach in order to build a really cohesive ecosystem.
True, 100%. I completely agree. Let's go back to FLAT6LABS. So basically, you guys have multiple branches in different cities in the world. Why would I, as مثلا, a tech startup, would want to apply to Abu Dhabi office, not any other office?
So I think the first thing is the mandate in our other offices are quite centric to the country. So for example, in Egypt, it's mostly for Egyptian entrepreneurs, and Tunis is for Tunisian entrepreneurs. I'm the only one, apart from Bahrain, that has a global mandate. So I'm allowed to invest in entrepreneurs from all over the world, but I need to find an edge. So the company needs to have sort of a product market fit to this region. And I'll give you a great example. So we had a company called Doc Vito that was based out of India. And they were doing psychotherapy for Indian nationals.
Psychotherapy.
Yeah. Now, in India, there's about 50 dialects of Hindi. And essentially what they found was they had a huge consumer base it's teledigital, so you can do it through the app. And what they found was that they had a huge consumer base actually based out of the UAE. So they were scaling impressively in India, and eventually they were like, you know what, we have a big consumer base in the UAE, so why don't
Indians living in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, Indians living in Abu Dhabi. So the options for the Indians living in Abu Dhabi that needed that type of service was limited and costly. So what they decided was, let's move to the UAE, let's set up shop, let's figure out the market a little bit more. And they understood that they could actually add about a 30% margin on their consumers here in the UAE because they were willing to pay it versus their customers in India. So that's the type of startup that we're looking for, ones that are like committed to the region and that actually want to grow and scale their businesses throughout Abu Dhabi.
Amazing. And how do we apply? Teach us the way. Website?
Yeah, through the website. It's very simple. FLAT6LABS.com. It's super simple. You go to the Abu Dhabi Seed Program, you click, you apply. You're asked a certain number of questions. If you get to the next stage, you're asked even more questions. If you get to the next stage, you're grilled even more. So
it's an opportunity for entrepreneurs to discover themselves and to know themselves better and to answer all the questions, because they need to answer those questions, whether by you or whether by life. One day where they have to think about those answers.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, we've just had our last boot camp, and a lot of the entrepreneurs that didn't get selected were so thankful of coming. They actually said, I really enjoyed the experience because number one, we got to know like-minded startups like us.
And
number
your
two,
network is your network.
yeah, exactly. And then the second element is like, we really knew what it's like to be grilled by a VC, and it's got us ready for us to be better prepared next time.
And the question that actually derived from a personal experience. So I am an angel investor myself, and I invested in a couple of startups. But I lacked the ability to get to know the person and, all those tests. Thankfully, I'll take the link from you. So I invested in this startup, and I don't think my legal part or my contract were solid enough. So this partner started, after being successful and after helping him 2.5 years from seed to profitability, started acting weird. the person started looking at us differently, wanting to to get us out, to shrink our shares. How do you deal with human behavior that is a little bit greedy? Or
look, I think legally you always need to be super sound and super strong. I think when we first set up in Abu Dhabi, we spent a lot of time sitting with the lawyer to make sure there's two sides of it, right? You need to be strong and make sure that your rights are protected and that you don't have that situation that you just mentioned. But at the same time, you need to be
gentle.
Yeah. You need
kind
to be
and sweet.
You need to be slightly founder friendly, where you're not,
scaring them away.
Yeah, exactly. That they could go to somebody else and get the money for less strict terms. So there's a gentle balance between the two. And to be honest, it's quite dynamic. It changes as the market changes.
Oh my God, it's difficult. This is one of the most difficult parts. And I believe legal is underappreciated in our region a little bit. They don't look at it until the problem happens.
I think, look, it's more difficult as an angel investor, right? I think once you have the knowledge of when you've built your own VC and run your own fund, you have a much better appreciation of the legal document and how to go through it and what things you need to include in it.
I'm going through this right now. Me and my brother wanting to start a VC in back in Kuwait.
I'll help you with that.
And thank you. And before the interview, I just got a text from the lawyer having some questions. But I really believe your contracts need to be solid as well. So to protect you and to protect the entrepreneur and to have clarity in the beginning. Also, me and my brother did something I would love to share with the audience called the Partnership Charter. And it's basically 25 questions that you need to clear in the beginning, have it written and documented to prevent future conflicts. Like pay, vacations, in case of مثلا someone, la samah Allah, die, or what to do in such situations. So everything is now answered and written, and it feels like a safety net that we both could fall into if مثلا because it will happen between you and your partners. Clashes, clashes would happen. Someone would say something they don't mean or would do an action that would surprise the other, and it would create this impact. Amazing. I loved having this interview with you. Before we sum up, I'll give you the mic, and I would love to hear something from you. But let's go back to the game.
Okay.
And the question that you picked, if you could read the card and tell us.
So, if you had a magic wand to solve a problem for a startup in emerging markets, what would you pick and how would you fix it? Help these startups succeed? I think for me, in terms of this, would be access to the sector knowledge. And I think a lot of the startups create a startup thinking that there's a problem, but they don't understand the problem enough. So I think what I would really like to see is more of receptiveness from the corporates to actually bring these people in, to actually go deep into the business, really understand where the problems are, and then actually create products related to that particular problem.
Because you're basically your startup should solve a problem or add value.
Yeah, I think inherently a lot of people decide because it's a problem for them, they think it's a problem for a lot of people, but they haven't validated that. And I think the reason why they haven't validated that is that they don't have the access or resource to actually go into a big company and go deep and figure out what that problem is.
It's true.
Yeah.
I really loved your answer. Loved spending time with you. Before we sum up, I would love to get a message or مثلا a note to every single person that's watching this episode and is driven and wanting to start, but they're hesitating or they're scared, what would you tell them?
Yeah, my message is don't be scared. I think go in, be confident. Don't think that it's too early to go and apply for funding. I suggest that you come well prepared, so not totally new to it. Be well researched, be well read. And I think another thing is have conversations, talk to other founders, really understand the journeys that they've been through in order for you to actually apply and have a better sort of journey as a founder.
Amazing. Ryaan Sharif, I really enjoyed
it
having you with us. Thank you, Destination Abu Dhabi, for this opportunity, for inviting us, for getting us to know Mr. Ryaan. I'm really honored and happy to meet the whole team, and inshallah, see you in the next episode.